Welcome once again to another New Testament is Fake series lesson on the Yalak Emmett channel, Twitter, YouTube, Patreon. This is March 2nd, 2021. My lesson is titled, Behold, It Is I. This is another copycat lesson that is a part of the New Testament is Fake series. And the copycat lessons show that the New Testament is just copying what was in the Torah or the Old Testament, not being original on its own. It doesn't have anything proper and new to offer. So it just keeps on piggybacking on the Old Testament. But I will show here that Jesus is just carrying on with his whole set of teachings and his life based on what the Most High already said about himself and Israel. He already said what he will do for Israel. Jesus isn't promising anything new. So when people make it sound like Jesus is offering all these things, it's the Most High who had offered them from the Old Testament before Jesus was here in the New Testament. I'm going to read to you first the copycat verse of deception. And show the real verse where I think it's taken from, that I call the root of the copycat, or the base verse that is in the Torah that I think such a deception in the New Testament might have been taken from. So the copycat verse of deception, actually a few verses here. I'll read from Matthew chapter 14, verse 23 to 27, and this is the story where the disciples were at sea and Jesus was coming walking on the water, and they were afraid when they saw him. They didn't know what to think at first. So it reads here from Matthew 14, 23 to 27. And when he had sent the multitudes away, he went up into a mountain apart to pray. And when the evening was come, he was there alone. But the ship was now in the midst of the sea, tossed with waves, for the wind was contrary. And in the fourth watch of the night, Jesus went unto them, walking on the sea. And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, It is a spirit. And they cried out for fear. But straightway Jesus spake unto them, saying, Be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid. So pretty straightforward story. They were afraid of what they saw, and he calmed them down, saying, It is I, don't be afraid. He's saying, be of good cheer, feel good, relax yourself. In this copycat verse of deception, which is mainly verse 27, where it says, Be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid, the disciples are in trouble. They're at sea and cannot save themselves. The way I see it is, this story is just mimicking something in the Torah. Because that's what usually happens. The stuff that Jesus is doing, it's from the Old Testament, and the writers are making up these stories to make the Old Testament stuff fit in the life of Jesus, so they can sell you a New Testament and sell you salvation through Jesus, usually through his miracles. But they make the stories seem to sync with seem like they sync with what's in the Old Testament. So you can believe him now when he says, I and my Father are one. Because if his story seems to be saying about his life what the Most High already said about the Most High's life and dealings with his people in the Old Testament, then it seems like Jesus is that one from the Old Testament who was the God of Israel. So then he can say to you, before Abraham was, I am. He can say to you something like that because the story seems so much like the Old Testament sayings of the Most High that it is difficult to separate Jesus from the God of Israel. You think they are one, but that is not correct. They are not one. Now let's go to the root of the copycat. So remember now, I told you the disciples are in trouble. They're at sea. They cannot save themselves. And he comes and he tells them, it is I. Now let's run over to the root of the copycat now, root verse where that deception might have been taken from. And that's from the book of Isaiah chapter 52. And let's go to verse 5 and 6. And show you that the same way the disciples in the New Testament in that story are in trouble and Jesus has to come and save them because they cannot help themselves, it's the same way now the children of Israel are in trouble, and in Isaiah 52 the Most High is going to be the one to be offering them help and promising them that they'll be all right. So you can see how the New Testament could mimic this, how it was written to mimic this. Isaiah 52, 5 and 6. Now therefore, what have I here, saith the Lord, that my people is taken away for naught? They that rule over them make them to howl, saith the Lord. And my name continually every day is blasphemed. Therefore my people shall know my name. Therefore they shall know in that day that I am he that doth speak. Behold, it is I. So we see here, they took away this people of Israel and they're giving them a lot of hardship. They're in bondage. And they don't get anything for all their labor, nothing that can build them up for all the labor that they're giving and so on. And they are being ruled over, a lot of hardship. So they are in trouble like the disciples in the sea, in the boat, they are in trouble. Well, here in the Old Testament, Israel is in trouble and also cannot help themselves, right? And then the Most High is saying, look, you're going to know my name because I'm going to bring you out of this. I'm going to deliver you. And then he says, I am he that does speak. You're going to know that I'm the one that's speaking. Behold, it is I. But Jesus, he spoke in the New Testament and told the people, it is I. To try to make people think that he, Jesus, is the one that was speaking in the Old Testament through the prophet Isaiah. In Isaiah chapter 52, behold, it is I. Can you see now that there's something strange right here? Is Jesus just, it's a problem. Every time I make one of these lessons, Jesus just looks like he's a problem. The New Testament just looks like it is a problem. That's why I make this series, The New Testament is Fake. So Israel is in trouble and cannot save themselves from their enemies that devour them, from their Assyrian-Egyptian bondage. And if you read in verse 4 from Isaiah 52, the verse before 5 and 6 that we read, it says, For thus saith the Lord God, my people went down aforetime into Egypt to sojourn there, and the Assyrian oppressed them without cause. So we're talking about an Assyrian-Egyptian bondage. And in verse 5 that we read, it says, they are taken away for nothing. Just like you in your bondage, your slavery, your Egyptian bondage that you call it, it was for naught where you are concerned. Somebody else got something out of it, but you got naught. You got nothing for it. And they made them to howl and so on, a lot of burden, and things just went really haywire. But then the Most High is saying, you will know in that day when I deliver you. From who? From these people, the Assyrian Egyptians. The Assyrian Egyptians. Because the people were put in bondage, they were oppressed without cause in Egypt by the Assyrian. This is what the Most High is saying. So you are in an Assyrian Egyptian bondage. I've told you, you're only going to have this one bondage in the Torah that has to do with Egypt that you cannot get out of on your own. You can't get out by fighting. You don't have enough weapons. You just can't pull it off. You don't have any strategy that can overcome them, the ones oppressing you and keeping you in your Egypt bondage. You don't have that kind of strategy. You don't have that exit worked out. You just can't. So the Most High is going to have to help you. And in that day when he helps you and delivers you, then, like verse 6 says, then at that time my people shall know my name. Therefore, they're going to know in that day that I am the Lord. So even as I talked about the Moses stuff, that was not correct, coming out of Egypt 3,500 years ago, here we're seeing it again. Because if you came out of Egypt 3,500 years ago under Moses, you would know it today. People would know it today. Even if they are not Israel, they would still know it the same way you know it. Because, like, look, I look at, and other people can say this as well, but I look at, when they fight with me to try to get me to return to worship Jesus and change my teachings and go back to worshiping Jesus the way I used to worship him when I was in a Christian church, but now they want me to worship him in an Israelite way, and I'm saying no. When they fight with me, I notice something strange. Because, you see, I'm telling you here that the Most High is saying, in that day when I deliver you, that means future time because you're not delivered yet. In that day when I deliver, my people will know that I am the deliverer. They will know that I am the Savior. They will know that I am the Lord, and they will know my name. So when Moses said, but what should I say to them? Who sent me? And so on, he says, they'll tell them, and he gives them the so-called name right there. Tell them that I am Yahweh and I am that I am, and so on. They didn't know the name back then. That is just, like I said to you many times, a story of prophecy. It is a prophetic writing that's telling you that when the deliverance comes, you're going to know the name. When Moses gets there, obviously Moses didn't get there yet because you're still in bondage. He only got there in the story. He only got there in the prophecy. He only got there in the prophetic writing. He only got there in the prophetic account. But it hasn't played out yet. Because Moses could not get the name upon that mountain at that time, 3,500 years ago, take it back to the people and tell them the name and got delivered and walk out of Egypt, and you still be in an Egypt bondage. You're only coming out of one single Egypt bondage in the history of earth where the Most High does a powerfully magnificent deliverance where Egypt is concerned. One time. That means it did not happen in the time of Moses. So when he got the name, it is telling you that at the time of your deliverance, a name is going to be revealed and you will begin to know the Lord. So my people will know in that day, not 3,500 years ago, but in that day, in the future, in that day when it comes to pass, when it happens. My people will know in that day, not 3,500 years ago under Moses. So this Jesus story is a copycat because it is I, like he's telling them in the boat to make them not be afraid. It is I, something that the Most High already said, behold, it is I, but he's speaking it for a future time, but giving it to you now so it can comfort your heart. And it is I, my people will know, behold, it is I in that day, is a prophetic declaration that Isaiah is giving before the it is I comes upon you. You can feel it right now. You can sense it until it happens, but you will not know it until it happens. You can just feel the spirit of it when you read the book, but you cannot live in the reality of, behold, it is I, because it has not happened yet. But Jesus tried to make them think that it already happened in his time when he says, it is I, be not afraid. This is a copycat thing. The Most High already said it, and the New Testament is copying it. So, not 3,500 years ago under Moses. Listen, when God delivers, his salvation cannot be rebuked by your sin or your enemy's hatred toward you. So you can't go back in bondage and enslaveship and so on after you've been delivered from Egypt under Moses 3,500 years ago. When God is revealed in your deliverance, he cannot be covered over again with slaveship and plantation bondage and cutting sugar canes and so on and picking cotton. When God displayed his creation, it never unreveals the Creator. So the psalmist said, the heavens declare the glory. So even when the sky is sprayed, it still regularly breaks forth and shows the glory revealed in creation, because the sky still breaks forth. The sun is covered up with whatever they're doing up there, but the sun still eventually breaks out. Why? Because it's already written. The heavens declare. So you can try all you want. Somebody can do all they want, but they cannot remove what the Creator is doing. So don't worry that it temporarily looks like that. It will still break forth. The sun will still break forth and show. The stars will still be seen. It's like if you look at your spiritual life, you can have all kinds of transgressions about you. You've been living the wrong way and you do carelessness because you just don't care. But then one day you decide to settle down and take check of what's going on in your life, how you're living your life. You decide to clean up some stuff, clean up this, that, and whatever. And then you change the way you live, and it's like you become a brand new person. The light breaks forth again. So even though you went through a time of living in transgression, the light still would break out eventually as you clean up things. Now let's look at Psalm chapter 19 and verse 1. To the chief musician, a psalm of David, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. Yeah, it shows it, because like I'm saying, when God is revealed in a so-called Moses deliverance, you should still have that deliverance be revealed even today. Your deliverance should have still been revealed so that you are not on plantation. How could you be on a plantation cutting sugarcane for people and picking cotton, and the deliverance from Moses' time from Egypt is displayed on a plantation with somebody whipping and flogging you? What kind of glorious deliverance is being displayed on a plantation? And you tell me you came out of Egyptian bondage? Egyptian bondage deliverance will never have you be in that spot ever again. Because the glory of your deliverance will be displayed, because it will shine so bright when it happens that it can never have you staying on a plantation anymore. Your deliverance is going to be so bright and shining like the glory of the Most High coming out of Egypt that you cannot fit anymore into a plantation system, fit anymore into a bondage system, fit anymore into an Assyrian oppression. Because the glory is too bright to have any Assyrian oppression come upon you. Whether you are in Egypt or you are in Babylon or you are in any place on the earth, you cannot be oppressed anymore, because the glory will not allow for that. That's why the prophet says, arise and shine, and he says, put on your garment and shake yourself from the dust and so on. Why? Because when the glory is coming upon you, you cannot be oppressed anymore. This is why in the Old Testament, whenever Israel was living right, they could not be destroyed by their enemies. So when you come out of Egyptian bondage and the Most High changes stuff about your life and comes out with that great glorious deliverance, it's never going to happen to you again, because the glory will be so bright. God will never have his light go down in your life ever again. After he puts in all that work, all that magnificence displayed across the entire world, so that both the righteous and the unrighteous. And so when you look at it now, I was saying how when they're trying to get me to turn my teachings and to go back to worshiping Jesus Christ, it is the unrighteous who is coming with this kind of an assault against me, and they do to everybody as well too, that does the stuff like the Bible says, when a man forsakes unrighteousness or something like that, he becomes a prey. And so when they come in, I notice what they do. They come with scriptures from the same Bible. They got lots of New Testament verses, but they even know the Torah. And they're coming to me and telling me this is speaking of Jesus Christ, and this other one is speaking of Jesus Christ, and so on. So what you find is the righteous are reading and using the Torah scriptures, and the unrighteous who are trying to do evil, they also use the same Torah and the same scriptures. They are using the same precepts. So the one book is being used by both the righteous and the unrighteous. So both of them are using the same book. It's you who will have to know and understand what the truth is, where the truth really is in all of this. And so you've got the Most High through Isaiah speaking in the Torah, and you've got Jesus in the new book, in the New Testament, speaking as well. So you've got a right book and a wrong book, an original book and then an added on book, and thou shalt not add unto these words. So you got both sides are using spiritual teachings to get at you. But you must be able to read it and seek it out for yourself and find the truth. So he says the heavens declare the glory of God. And this is the same way how your deliverance will be so declared across the earth that both the righteous children of Israel that's delivered and the unrighteous who witnessed, who saw, who heard about the deliverance, even they also will see the glory of the deliverance. So both the Israel and the heathen will see the deliverance happening to the people of God. They both will know the deliverance. And when the deliverance happens, no one can change it after that, or it is not deliverance. It is not deliverance if it can be changed by some kind of a 400-year captivity, slave ship bondage and so on, plantation bondage. The whole world, both righteous and unrighteous, will see and know and hear on the news and word of mouth and so on that this people has finally been delivered from European Commonwealth Egyptian bondage. The whole world would know. So both the righteous are going to know, wow, we've been delivered now. They're singing praises to the Most High, and the unrighteous will know it as well. It will be a great news. The glory of it will spread all over the earth. And it cannot be repented of. It cannot change again. Just like when the Most High does his work in creation, the glory of all of that cannot be changed. For the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament show it. So when he does his creation, it declares it all the time. It does not change. It does not stop, even if they do stuff to the sky. The same way your deliverance from Egypt will not stop being declared, no matter what somebody else does when they say, we want to enslave that people all over again. It can never happen again. It will continue to be declared because the glory of God is being shown in it, like the glory is shown in the heavens. Look at what it says. The heavens declare. Declare from the Hebrew H5608, safar, to count, recount, relate, reckon, recount, rehearse, declare. Rehearse, that means it is redoing something. It is retelling it all the time. The heavens declare. That means every time you look at the heavens, it continues to tell, it continues to tell, it continues to tell something. That there is a God who once did this, who once set up this sky, who once set up this firmament. There is a God, a creator, some kind of being set this thing up. And it continues to be told all the time when you look at it. It's the same way your deliverance from the Exodus under Moses, if it ever happened, would continue to tell itself and tell the story of itself over and over and over and over again by your perpetual freedom in this life. Every single day when you get up, it will be known to your heart and in the minds of everybody on earth that this people is free. They've been freed through the Moses Exodus, and it will just tell the story over and over again every time they see these people. Instead, we find that the story is not being told like that because you are in a bondage. That means the Exodus deliverance did not happen, because if the heavens declare the glory and your deliverance is supposed to declare the glory of your deliverance, then how come you can't tell your deliverance? How come you're just looking forward to it? Because somehow we have been lied to. We have been lied to. So when the Most High displayed his creation, it never unreveals the Creator. So the psalmist said the heavens declare, and so on, all right? If you came out of Egypt, it must still be seen thousands of years after Moses is dead and gone. Because the glory will recount itself. It will retell itself. The glory of that moment of deliverance will continue to tell its story over and over and over and over again. For behold, it is I who reveal myself, and my work of deliverance and salvation will never stop revealing me. I am the Lord. So when Jesus said, "It is I, be not afraid," that's just a copycat kind of thing. That's really the Most High who said it from Isaiah 52, 5 and 6. That he's going to deliver, and in that day we will know that he's the Lord. And like he said, you're going to know my name at that time. Behold, it is I. You're going to know that it is the Lord that brought you out, and you will never unknow the Lord and his deliverance. You will never unknow or forget the praises of the Most High and the power of the Most High, who delivered you from all the places where you were put in bondage. That's why the scripture says elsewhere, I will give you praise and honor in every place that you have been put to shame. You will always have that. Look at all the things that have happened, and they keep telling the story over and over on earth. 1,000 years ago, this and that happened. 10,000 years ago, this and that, and they talk about floods here, and 1,000 years, and the Sahara used to be a very wet, moist place and fertile place and so on. And they keep telling that story over and over again. It just keeps being retold. You are going to come out by the power of God out of this worldwide Egyptian bondage for blacks everywhere on earth. And it's still not going to be retelling itself and declaring itself after 1,000 years. You think in 1,000 years from now you're going to be wondering how we're going to get out of this? Yet, you say you've been through an Egyptian exodus with Moses, and here you are sitting wondering in 2021 how you're going to get out of this. Because you have not yet known the name of the Lord. But one day my people will know my name. Behold, it is I. In that day, my people will know my name. They will know in that day that I am he that doth speak. Behold, it is I.